Hi guys, welcome to Hodge Podge Hobbies. My name is Aiden and we've made it. Our first YouTube video. In the midst of some exciting, worrisome and tumultuous time indeed. That is, whether you're a Tolkien fan, a Lord of the Rings fan, or a Rings of Power fan, there's a lot going on. You can be a hobbit in the Shire and still know about it. If you're going to want to hear my opinion on the first two episodes, you're going to have to wait till the end of the video to find out. But let's refocus. The point of this actual video is what inspired our craft, and that was some promotional images from the new Rings of Power show. Grab your hammer and let's head to the anvil. Our craft and journey awaits. The scene that stood out to me most in the Rings of Power trailer is this one, in which we see this tower just standing aloft the side of this massive mountainous area, which I believe to be Southern Harad. We'll see. So I hopped into Revit and started just generically modeling the tower structure. If you're wanting the template and the sizing that I used for this whole project, it can be found in the link in the description. From my model, I was able to make a small template that I could later follow for the base of the tower and for the top. To give this tower some height, I just grabbed a paper towel roll and glued it to what was the bottom star of the tower. Now I used my finger to get a nice crispy hot glue weld, but be careful, hot glue is hot. Ouch! With this tower, it appears that the top rotates from the middle offset from the base just enough to make it really annoying later on in this craft. After gluing the bottom and the top of the base, we move on to the sides of the tower. Based on my top and bottom star, the bottoms of these sides were both 2 inches and the top side was about 1.5 inches. This is foam core that I'm using, and there's a very good reason for that. I needed the foam to bend as the stars kind of also rotated, so we're just going to rip the paper off this board like a nice juicy rabbit.
You make him sick, you will!
Sorry about that, Frodo. Now, not Isengard wasn't looking too fancy, so to bump it up, we're going to add a little bit of parapet detail around the top edge. With our structure pretty much complete, I requested a delivery from the dwarves of Khazad-dûm. Unfortunately, unlike Amazon, it's not one-day shipping. But after a knock on my door, I had a few dwarves and some mithril. These dwarves were even kind enough to share some of their ancient knowledge that involved the rolling pin and bricks. Quite effective, if you ask me. Now, turning what was actually foam clay into bricks is a lot harder process. I just really wanted to practice some of the magic that Meteorite Man taught me. He does love his apples. Essentially, you want to roll out your clay, then grab a texture roller to use. I'm just using one from Green Stuff World called Bricks, I believe. And you make essentially long sections that can pretty much span the length of each side of the tower. Now please don't do what I did here. Make long strips of these brick sections, because cutting this stuff and trying to join it afterwards wasn't the look I was going for initially. But this is Hodge Podge Hobbies, and after I made a real hodge of this hobby, I wanted to transition to something a little bit more fun. I 3D printed my top lookout area. I used epoxy to pretty much glue all of the separate pieces together. Later on in the video, you might notice that the top might have came off in an unfortunate accident. Things happen, and as the years go on, especially in Southern Harad, I'm sure a lot of the weather takes its toll on this building over time. Makes sense in the canon. Using this foam tape It really added a lot of detail and was reflective of my original design. Now, one thing that I definitely overlooked was a door and the need for one. Even in this low fantasy setting, I guess a door would be pretty commonplace. Even though the trailer and teasers don't show us that there is any, I'm just making a personal creative decision. It's the second age of Middle-earth. We can do whatever we want, right? Oh, sorry, that was Amazon press release. My bad. Now on to my favorite part of this whole craft, the painting. White, Hodge Podge Zenithal. And I think out of all the steps of this hobby, this is the most confusing. Despite their name washes, these were quite dirty. I started off by using some less dirty ones, like a gray, and then I was like, oh, that looks like stone. Then I found my dirtiest one, and I was like, okay, let's try this one. It's Middle-earth, Southern Harad, up in the mountains all alone. Probably would get stuff on it. And then I was like, hey, let's put more stuff on it. This technique was ripped from Neil at Real Terrain Hobbies. Putting weathering powder in like brick creases, just thank you, Neil. Also, quick tip, don't forget to dry brush. Like I forgot to capture that step. Now I was really excited to try out this new weathering technique that I'd seen some other 3D modelers use. It's essentially a bronze oxidizing paint by Rust-Oleum. And I was like, there's no way this outpost is kept that clean. And it's probably old, it's elves, come on. Bronze doesn't last forever like them. So that's why this real tower of power is really aged and really weathered. A little bit too oxidized, so I had to throw on a nice brown glossy wash. And that was the final step. With these beauty shots, we're changing things up. We're going to honor J.R.R. Tolkien and read some of his fine works in Middle-earth. From Unfinished Tales, a description of the land of Numenor. The account of the island of Numenor that here follows is described from descriptions and simple maps that were long preserved in the archives of the kings of Gondor. These represent indeed but a small part of all that was once written, for many natural histories and geographies were composed by learned men in Numenor, but these, like nearly all else of the arts and sciences of Numenor, at its high tide, disappeared in its downfall. Even such documents as were preserved in Gondor, or Imladris, suffered from loss and destruction by neglect. For though the survivors of Middle-earth yearned, as they said, for Alcableth, the downfallen, and never even after long ages ceased to regard themselves as in a measure exiles. When it became clear that the land of gift was taken away, and that Numenor had disappeared forever, all but few regarded study of what was left of its history as vain. Breeding only useless regret, the story of Ar-Pharazôn and his imperious armada was all that remained generally known in the later ages. Thank you so much for joining me on our very first adventure as Hodge Podge Hobbies. If you're still here and still wondering about my opinion on the first 2 episodes of The Rings of Power, to not add more fire to the pits of Mordor, that's going to be online on our Patreon. In that, you'll be able to hear mine and my wife's opinions on the first 2 episodes, along with the STLs to make this guy. We also have the star templates to guide you along for the base sizing and the top sizing of the tower. That's there for free, along with our material lists and our tools used in this craft. But I want to thank all of you, regardless if you help support or even just watch this video. It means a lot. Now, till our paths cross again, this has been Hodge Podge Hobbies. Thank you for joining.